Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be. A big welcome to you all to the start of Microsoft Copilot Week. My name is Sean, and I'm delighted that you are joining us for today's ESBC community webinar. Today I'm joined by Nikkia and Sheila, who will cover getting started with Microsoft Copilot. We love hearing what you guys have to say, so remember to join in on the conversation about today's webinar and more on X. Our handle is at ESBC_community, and our hashtag is hashtag ESBC24. Tweet us, tag us, and tell you what you learned. Don't forget to check out our Learning Hub, which is updated daily with the latest blogs, ebooks, webinars, and how-to videos. You can access and view the Learning Hub by visiting our website, sharepointeurope.com, and clicking the Content tab on the top. Don't let the learning stop here. Continue to stay up and stay ahead by joining us for our next webinar, Bringing AI to Microsoft Entra with Microsoft Copilot for Security with Jan Wieder Elven. This webinar is part of Microsoft Copilot Week and takes place on Wednesday, 15th of May, 2024 at 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. CEST. For more information on this webinar, please check out sharepointeurope.com/Microsoft Copilot Week. Big news, our ESBC program launch is now live, offering over 100 plus Microsoft 365 sessions. Explore Copilot features extensively throughout the program, while also covering topics such as Microsoft Azure, Teams, migration, security, governance, AI, Copilot, analytics, Loop, and Microsoft 365 content. Book your tickets today at www.sharepointeurope.com/pricing. Don't miss out. Mark your calendars because EPPC is just around the corner, happening next month. With only a handful of two-day tickets left, there's no better time than now to secure your spot today by visiting www.sharepoint.europe.com/European Power Platform Conference pricing. After the webinar, we'll have a questions and answers session. Type any questions you might have into the questions window. Questions will be selected and answered at the end of the presentation. This webinar will be recorded and added to the Resource Center, where you'll be notified by email when it is available. And now, I'm going to pass you over to today's webinar presenters, Nikkia and Sheila. Hello, Sheila and Nikkia. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi there. Good morning.
Hi, and thanks so much.
Sheila's presented now. If you want to present, there you go. Perfect.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to SharePoint Europe, this SharePoint Europe presentation on getting started with Copilot. So we're going to teach you all about this getting started with Copilot journey. Let's get started on the journey. Let's see. Apologies, things being a little slow. As we get underway, my co-speaker and I would like to take a moment to introduce ourselves. I'll start first. My name is Nikkia Carter, and I'm co-CEO of NTC Tech Consultancy, LLC. We are located in Washington State, and we're a Microsoft Cloud partner. We are solution developers, system integrators, and trainers who are committed to helping organizations just like yours get their productivity and collaboration game together using a variety of products, strategies, and solutions to fit the need now and into the future. Now I'd like to hand it over to Sheila to give her introduction.
Hi there, and welcome everyone. My name is Sheila Vellante, and I'm the Managing Partner and CEO at Seer Strategic Solutions. A little bit about our company. We are designed for adoption and change management by helping out end users and organizations straddle to the next generation of digital products. And I'm excited to be here, and thank you guys all for your time. So I just wanted to know out in the room today, just to see how familiar you are with Copilot. This session is designed to be interactive with you, and also hopefully that you can be able to learn a few things during the session. So if you don't mind, go ahead and click on the QR code that's located here, and essentially give us a poll of how familiar you are with Copilot. Just giving everyone a few minutes just to select on how familiar you are. All right. Gonna go ahead and select on the next screen. Let's see how many entries we have. All right. So you guys are somewhat familiar with Copilot. This is great. Very familiar, not familiar? No worries. So those two users who are not familiar, I guarantee you that you'll get something out of this session for today. All right. So within our agenda for today, we're going to go ahead and talk about a few elements here. So this agenda is going to go over the Copilot journey. Why is discovery important with Copilot? As we know, generative AI is taking over more than ever. And so we want to make sure that you guys have the proper roadmap and tools in order to get started within your organization. So the 5 pillars here that we're going to talk about is the Copilot journey, why discovery is important to me, the Quadro, migrate, secure, control, plan, and build, the new era of organizational evolution, and then lastly, the value of Copilot. So I just wanted to give you guys an amazing statistic here that there's been a lot of organizations trying to implement AI, correct? Specifically around Copilot, ChatGPT, but I wanted you guys to go with something that's really important and striking. Essentially, you know, it's suggesting studies that came out of Forbes and other graduate studies that there's an 87% failure rate on deploying Copilot and or any AI product. And the reason being is that it's important for organizations to prepare through a journey in order to foster the best adoption rate of generative AI in their organization. And then lastly, this session essentially will take you through this journey to getting you started with the Copilot on your own. So the journey here resembles just a nice approach, a circular approach of what to do throughout your journey. The first in there is going to be defining the journey. The defining of the journey all requires work of workshops understanding from your business, your technical, as well as grabbing some KPIs at the end of the day. Then from there, you're going to build and plan. So plan and build. This is really important so you know exactly where you're planning, where you're going, and how to build towards that. The secure, migrate, and control is all about your data. You have to get over to the cloud, making sure that it's secure and under control. Then you can go ahead and create your design of your Copilot, knowing that your data is ready and it's in an environment ready to go. Then you move over to enabling the change, which we'll go through in a bit. And then after that, measure your performance. Now, I'm going to go ahead and pass over the mic over to Nikkia, and she'll explain more in detail about your data. So essentially, the reason why discovery is super important is that business users, technical stack, and KPIs are critical. What I've had experience within my organization is that it tends to be business users have these desires, they have these wants, right? And they're trying to figure out, how does Copilot work for me? So the first rule of thumb is always capturing discovery. So the first thing that you want to do is evaluate your existing workflows, evaluate the performance of your organization, and also reveal the opportunities of what can possibly happen with leveraging Copilot within an organization. Then you'll move over to what's called the technical stack, looking at everything under the hood as it relates to, productivity, as it relates to load balancing, applications, etc. So having a tech stack, evaluating it, essentially will help you kind of understand where your environment is today. And then the last thing is the KPIs. The KPIs are super critical. You want to know why? Because you get to be able to measure this throughout your journey. You want to know what your business desires or wants on. Putting that as a KPI is actually you're reaching towards some type of goal. This also goes for the technical stack as well. So within my next question, I kind of want to know a little bit more about the Quadro. So I'll move it over to the mic and pass it over to Nikkia.
Thanks, Sheila. So now we're going to get into the Quadro. This is where we talk more about some of the, so we talked about some of the theming around first getting to that discovery, talking to those stakeholders. Now we're going to get into the plan, then securing, then migrating, and then making sure things are under control with your data. So let's go into those next steps. But before we do, we have another question for you. Okay. When was the last time you had a third-party technical assessment done? Third party, meaning someone outside of your agency did an assessment technically on some project or something that you're trying to do, or maybe an overall technical assessment. So we'll give you a few seconds to, about a half a minute to fill out that question. Okay, so I think that's probably enough time. Let's go see what the results are. Okay, so it looks like most of you have never had a technical, or at least half of you have never had a technical third-party assessment. And then some of you have had some mostly recently, or more recently for the half of the half, and then not so recently for the other half of the half. So, okay, great to know. Thank you so much for that. So now let's get into talking about planning the migration, and I mean, planning your whole plan and the build process. So planning the migration and building out structure in SharePoint and Teams are pivotal next steps in this journey for a seamless transition, optimized and an optimized collaboration environment, as well as one that will work well with Copilot. First, meticulous planning lays the foundation for success by identifying organizational needs, objectives, and user requirements. This involves assessing existing data structures, identifying key stakeholders, and developing a comprehensive roadmap outlining tasks, timelines, and resource allocations. Build out of the structure within SharePoint and Teams is equally crucial, as it ensures an organized and intuitive environment tailored to the organization's workflows. This entails designing a logical hierarchy, establishing consistent content types and metadata schemas, and developing a plan for archiving. In most cases, you will want to archive at least some of the data going into your new environment. Many organizations have been sitting on data for a while. If you're going into a new environment, now's the time to plan for cleaning up some of that data and don't move junk into your new spot. But in all cases, you will also want to have a plan for future archiving. And that will be implemented in the control stage. That way you'll have a cleaner landscape, as I've said. A well-structured SharePoint site and Teams channels not only enhances your user experience, but also streamline content management, searchability, and governance. Moreover, thoughtful structuring facilitates streamlining integration with other Microsoft 365 applications, such as Copilot, enabling efficiency and information sharing across teams. If I can get the next, okay. Okay, so now to move on to the secure phase. We got a few different things here. So we have your Identity and Access Management, or IAM, Defender, and Data Loss Prevention, mostly known as DLP. And we also have our Collaboration and Sharing Insights. All of these are very important to the secure phase, so let's get into it. So securing data through AIM, Defender, and DLP, and utilizing collaboration tools in M365 is vital for safeguarding information and compliance. IAM controls access, while Defender offers real-time protection, and DLP prevents data leaks. Additionally, leveraging M365 or Office 365's analytics provides insights into data usage, security risks, and enabling proactive measures. These measures protect your sensitive information and data, mitigate risk, and foster a secure and productive digital environment. A few things to note here. Both DLP and Defender require enterprise level licenses. This means you'll need an E3 or an E5 license for everyone. Or if you're trying to save some money, you could use E3 and E3 and or E5 licenses with frontline licenses, which are F3 and F5 licenses. So you can possibly have some licenses for your back office, which are those enterprise licenses, which cost a bit more. And for your frontline workers, or those workers that don't need as much, like they don't need full office, you can get them frontline worker licenses that will help with that and give you some cost savings. Both have some capabilities available in E3. So both Defender and DLP have some of their capabilities available in E3, but their full capabilities are available in E5 or as an add-on. Sorry, this thing is just so long. Okay, on my side, it's taking so long. Okay, moving on to the migrate phase. So after planning your build out and securing your data and structure, it's time to migrate your data in. So according to the plan, and you also want to ensure strong search capabilities within your SharePoint and Microsoft Teams, which is essential for leveraging the full potential of Microsoft Copilot. A robust data structure with search features enable Copilot to access a well-organized database, empowering it to deliver timely insights and recommendations. Again, if it's data in that it may come in that may not be the best set of data, you don't want that to be the output that you end up getting. So you want to make sure that your data is clean, then you migrate it into your clean, well-organized system, but then you still have a couple more steps to go in the journey. So the next one is the control phase. And if I can get, okay. So in this control phase, we'll be talking about data policies using Purview and SharePoint Premium. Apologies, folks. The thing on my end is just having a little bit of a problem. Okay. Purview and SharePoint Premium are vital to ensuring data compliance and classification. Purview enables comprehensive data discovery and cataloging of diverse sources, cataloging across diverse sources, my apologies, facilitating compliance with regulations like GDPR. SharePoint Premium complements this with enhanced security and governance features, enabling organizations to enforce policies for data classification and retention. Together, they empower businesses to proactively identify sensitive data, enforce compliance measures, and mitigate regulatory risk effectively. They also help in ensuring that Copilot acts accordingly as well. Some things to note here as well. Both Purview and SharePoint Premium, again, require enterprise licenses. So basically, as I said on the previous slide, also applies here, where SharePoint Premium and Purview both have some capabilities through E3, but most of their capabilities are through E5 or add-on. But you can also mix in those frontline worker licenses.
All right. So once your data is essentially secured, you plan it out, you have it built, it's now start to transform, right? Out with the old, in with the new. Which brings now the next thing is your business users. The product will not be effective or efficient if your team is not involved. So proper change management policies and also process is essential skill. So as you'll see here on the screen, there are 5 important aspects of change management that if you decide to deploy Copilot, this is really essential for you. So first things first, having department champions are essential. The reason being is that end users typically love to learn from their peers. And so when you get your champions involved, what this does is people learn from each other, right? So having department champions a part of your projects, informing them, upskilling them, and also helping them kind of transition from their user and their team, essentially how to move over to the future. Another thing about department champions is that these resources are actually the acolytes within an organization. Sometimes leadership have direction, right, of where they want to go, but really the most important factor of having a champion is so that they can advocate on behalf of the organization within their pod group. So before you start organization, essentially change, make sure that you recruit the proper resources who could be essentially champions for their pod. The next thing is to develop learning modalities. So sometimes folks that we've seen in organizations says, let's do a webinar training. Well, I'm here to tell you that webinars are not the only learning modalities that users love to foster learning. You can create things such as quick start guides, hands-on tutorial, one-on-one tutorials, because something like myself, I like to watch videos and I also like to have some kind of like a quick sheet there to help me out. So, either having an internal training organization and or a third party to help you craft these materials to show a one-to-one transition of where resources are going from the past over to the future, developing those learning modalities are going to be essential. The next thing that I want to put a key here, and I should have put a major quotations, is you want to develop excitement within your communication. So just not a plain old email saying, hey, hurrah, we are moving towards Copilot. I would say make an event out of it, right? So if that means you got to grab some swag and or, put together a Copilot launch day, these are things that to get the business users excited to the future. Because keep in mind that you're not only transitioning their day to day, you're transitioning from roles, right? They're evolving. So you want to make sure you want to have your business excited as well as you when you deploy the Copilot. When it comes to go live time, now that you've pumped up everyone, everything is all learning, champions are ready to go. Go live is the most crucial to capture as much feedback as possible. So your team who is on this Copilot journey and helping the team organize and getting to the future, it allows them to now go ahead and track. How did the user feel? Are they excited? Did they do wrong? Do we do right? And I also would say that your department champion is considered your frontline advocate, right? It will help support down help desk tickets during go live, and it's a great way for essentially your team to be organized when it comes to the deployment. Last but not least, measure time. Qualitative and quantitative analysis of all the reported data as it relates to your dashboard, which I'm going to show you in a bit, and also having an ear for the ground, meaning that if something is, you might have some naysayers, but you want to listen to all the feedback so you guys can be able to essentially have a report so you can be able to know what to do next and to repeat the journey. So everything is going to be about measurement once you deploy out essentially the Copilot. So remember in the beginning of the session when we said 87% failure rate is because essentially nothing was measured. All of the steps and checks that we've identified here in the journey are essential for your success. One great thing that I truly like about the Microsoft Copilot is that it actually has its own dashboard. So you can be able to put in baselines and actually check out for the readiness, the adoption, any of the impact, the sentiment, and also look at some additional news and research as you are deploying out the Copilot. One great thing about different that I like that Microsoft has done is that it's easy to use. It's visually capturing and it captures real-time data. So let's talk about where the value is coming out of AI, right? Well, the first thing is going to be role evolution. So once in the day, we used to do certain things like have pagers, right? And or have certain things that were historic, but over time we evolved. So what Copilot is actually doing for the role, it's evolving that end users, essentially what their business function will be. And so what that does is like, it doesn't replace any human, what it does, it enhances them. So they're able to essentially create and foster more innovation within their role to be more efficient, more quality control, as well as be more productive for that organization. Business process optimization. That's what AI does. It is going to optimize your business process to the 10th power, making sure that your business, essentially your case in any department, can kind of transform. In this picture, I have it to a horse to like a powered Mustang, right? So the great thing about AI and the value that you're going to bring is it's going to be speed, it's going to be quality, and also efficiency. As it relates to cost savings, one thing that I do know is that Copilot and any AI, essentially you will have cost saving through optimization, less waste and less risk. So having legacy programs, if they can be replaced by AI, go ahead and start the journey to try to transform off of old legacy programs, and the cost savings down the line in the short term, you'll start to see the residual value. The reason is that once you're able to really monitor and performance of your business organization, you'll start to see real-time and real-time actions throughout your journey. And then the last thing, moving out in the old, going into the new. It is very scary. However, it's just the journey that we all go through, correct? Looking at the eyes of the prize of the value of Copilot, transforming you there to the future. So, are you ready for your Copilot journey? Unlocking innovation, propelling you for success. The reason why I'm super excited for each and every one of you guys here in the crowd is that today you received essentially the journey of what it will take to go ahead and deploy Copilot into your organization. As I have helped and support several organizations through this journey to be able to optimize, as well as Nikkia, we're thrilled to answer any of your questions for today. All right. So with that being said, for our moderator, if you can open up for chat. I know we're a little bit early.
Yeah. Thank you, Nikkia and Sheila, for a great presentation.
Thank you.
So, will we get into the questions and answers now?
Yes, please.
Perfect. So now we'll just get into the questions and answers part. Should you wish to ask a question, please feel free to type it in the question window now. So our first question is, can Copilot be used collaboratively among team members?
Yes, yes, it can.
Yes.
Yes, it can. So there's several different elements in with Copilot. So you might find that Copilot not only helps you create and or analyze. Where I think that the great place of collaboration with Copilot would be is within Microsoft Teams, leveraging the AI bot. The AI bot is something great where when you're in a conference room or having a collaboration session, looking over data as it relates to Excel, that Copilot can actually be a collaborative thing as you're working with your team members on your journey.
Amazing.
Yeah, I'll just add
Yeah,
to
if you want to
that.
go, Sheila.
Yeah, I mean, even though, you can use it with Teams, but also look at it from the office perspective as well. As you're working on documents, even though Sheila just alluded to that with the Excel spreadsheet, think about your PowerPoint presentations and your Word documents and where you're working together to try to get this presentation out the door. You're trying to get this document done for, XYZ client, and you're working in a collaborative fashion. Copilot can still be used when you're working in that collaborative fashion to help you um, do your job, do your part of the job faster, and then seamless, get it all nudged in with everybody else's work. So yes, definitely.
Amazing. So I'll just get into the next question. What programming languages does Copilot support?
Programming languages. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not sure Copilot supports programming languages. However, there's Copilot for security, which can help you with your security game. There's Copilot for Power Apps, which can help you build Power Apps faster. There's Copilot for Power Automate, which helps you build workflow, automated business workflows, automate those workflows a bit faster. So there's some things that Copilot can help you do that can seem code-esque, but aren't really code, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's perfect. So I'll just get to the next question. So, how to convince cyber it is safe and your data will not be shared?
Yes, this is a great one. So I'll take on that one. I know Nikki, you'll chime in on that. One great thing about Copilot, as we mentioned in the beginning about securing your data, so I would say cyber will have to kind of be within that, right? Creating the governance, controls, and policies. Essentially, currently with your data, when you are leveraging Copilot, it is actually fostering through the data that you create within your ecosystem. Although Copilot does go out on the internet, right, and scours the web, and looks at things that are out facing. So there's two sides of Copilot. When it comes to your internal information internally, Copilot will leverage the data that you have in your environment. So that's why it's important for it to be clean. So to answer your question about security, well, it would be up to the security officer that would create the governance to ensure that the data is safe before actual use.
Yeah, just to chime in on what Sheila was saying, that's why we were very focused on that quattro in the middle, because you have to make sure not only is your data clean, it's going in, you got a clean set of data, but you want to make sure that those controls and the retention and the different policies that you need to have around your data are set before you let Copilot out into the wild. Because if you do, and someone's like, hey, and say, for example, you have this information on your system somewhere. Hey, what is my salary compared to XYZ person's salary? If you don't have that data locked down, Copilot's going to tell them. So this is the reason why we are very strong on making sure that you go through a proper journey before you implement Copilot. Yes, you can just turn Copilot on, But is that exactly a safe thing for you to do? Might not be if your whole security, compliance, your data, all of that isn't already straight. So you could end up creating some issues unintentionally if you don't go through a proper journey.
Amazing. So just going into the next question. Can I use data flow, Power Query to ingest Copilot, like SharePoint libraries or even somatic models, PBIX?
Yes. Yes, that's the short answer. Yes, you can do that.
Perfect.
And
So I just get, do you want to add on to that, Sheila?
yeah, I was going to add on to that, that it actually saves time, a lot of time when you're analyzing in those models. So leveraging Copilot does give you essentially, in a sense, suggestions on, which, essentially which list would be great for what you're trying to create in Power BI. So to answer your question, the answer is yes. There are some additional configurations such as Fabric and adding essentially your data into like, say, data lakes, essentially, which I truly have a passion for because it's actually ciphering your data and actually giving you the best result when you're creating those PBX dashboards.
Amazing. So just the next question, guys. Any tips for convincing my boss to get us Copilot? My boss thinks it's too much of a security risk.
Yes, the tips are this. There are some articles of some valuable cost-saving articles that I think as a CEO myself, that if it's going to cost, is if it's going to save me money, the upfront cost might be painful. However, the residual of transforming the organization is what I like to hear. So I think the best tips is to either bring in the third-party organization to kind of present that value on your behalf, and or contact your local Microsoft partner to help you and support building that business use case.
Yeah, and also think about it in terms of employee retention too. That's another thing that employers don't think about. We are all working our butts off all the time, every day. If you could just, lessen some of that stress as an employer for your employees, they'll be better employees for it. They're going to be better as far as productivity, as far as morale. They'll appreciate that they have additional tools to help them, and that the tool is not replacing them, it is actually enhancing their ability to do their job, because you still need those people with that experience to make sure those answers that you get out of Copilot are actually the answers that are correct and complete and concise and all of that. That's another way to also think about it. But yeah, I highly suggest if you can get a consult with a Microsoft partner such as ourselves, we will definitely sell the value to your boss. But there are lots of articles as well, as Sheila said.
Perfect. And another question is how to convince senior management on the ROI.
It's so great that the ROI is actually one great component that you see in the dashboard itself about adding the time value. If it took, essentially 2 hours to do something, now it just takes 5 minutes. Calculating the ROI is pretty simplistic. We have here at Sierra, that's the first thing we do when we're looking at the discovery sessions, looking at a specific organization or a pod, and leveraging them as like a proof of concept to kind of show that value across time. Those reports are pretty streamlined. There are a few links out there on Microsoft that you can be able to do a cost calculator and knowing exactly over time how long it will take with your current process in order to receive the ROI within a time-phased period of time.
Lovely. So just get to the next question. We just added Copilot licenses to our tenant, and I'm wondering if there is a way to view the status of the semantic indexing on our tenant.
So under the admin panel, there is that Copilot on the left-hand side. If you click on that, you'll see the report of Copilot and its adoption. You should be able to see the essentially the updates. It's almost kind of close to the adoption score. And it kind of goes into more in detail with some summaries about your data to try to leverage that and use that first. That's going to kind of be the out of the box dashboard that you can leverage to see how Copilot's going for your organization.
Perfect. I'll just get to the next question, if that's right, guys. So there's some legal boundaries about data privacy and personal health data in Switzerland and in the European Union. Is there a paper from Microsoft ensuring to meet all data governance policies?
Yes. So under the governance with semantic, and then I'll let Nikkia go ahead and answer more of this question, but the answer is yes. And also even gets even deeper about making sure that tagging and policies going back to that governance that is applied to essentially European standard or a standard that's across the board. Having currently today, if you have enabled essentially like Purview, if you're in Teams and you want to like place in a social security number, that the system is going to automatically flag it and or block it from you from transmitting. And so I leverage and work with a lot of healthcare organizations where here in the United States that sensitivity data, sensitivity labels are also auto applied. Again, it goes back to structuring out for the governance, and I'll let Nikkia chime on additional more.
Yeah, again, that's why that control, that the trio, again, that's the end of the trio. But making sure that you have those things configured, because they are available in Office 365 or Microsoft 365, which depending on what version you have. But GDRP, some configurations for things like NIST, other HIPAA. There's lots of configuration sets, as well as those that you can actually implement yourself, like come up with your own policies and rules of configuration to make sure that you are staying compliant with whatever regulation it is that you need to stay compliant with. But there is a site, I can't remember what the site is called, but if you just look up Microsoft 365, like secure, I think it was security. Ooh, I wish I could remember it right now. There is a whole big site that Microsoft has that breaks down each of their how they met the regulatory compliance. So it talks about ISO, talks about GDPR. It breaks each thing down. So should be easy to find. I know Microsoft still has it. I just can't recall the URL at the moment. But the data is definitely out there.
Good question.
Perfect. So just the next question is, does Copilot Microsoft 365 send user ID and tenant ID with search queries with Bing?
Send it to where I mean, it wouldn't send it anything. So Copilot's not going to send anything outside of the organization, if that's what the worry is. It may pull data in from outside to help you with whatever it is that you're working on. And it may pull data from inside to help you with whatever, but it's not going to push anything out, if that makes sense.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, perfect. So just the next question is Microsoft Copilot available on device-based licensing for Office 365 apps?
Meaning like a device such as like a register or such? They can clarify the question.
Yeah, that's the question they have. They might add on to it later, so I might just go
They
on.
might add on to it later, because I think essentially that question might be great, especially when it comes to like IoT devices for manufacturing, right? You might probably want to add an instance or a module item on a CNC machine or such. To answer your question, I believe that might be an add-on later. However, the data that might be collected from, let's say, an application itself, there's different ways to kind of skin that cat, where the data that's being populated that will go into, let's say, a database and or essentially a list, that data can still be aggregated, and an end user can leverage Copilot to aggregate and review the data.
I don't know if this adds to it, but he just put in another question is, does audit activities are available for Copilot activities? Does that add to the question?
Say that one more time.
Does audit activities are available for Copilot activities?
Ah, that's a good one. As I'm thinking kind of about that, especially when it comes to like purview. If you create the bot essentially to do specific business use cases for audit, let's say I want to see X, Y, and Z discrepancy within the last 90 days, and given it some parameters, Copilot can go out and to find that to say you have 8 discrepancies of X, Y, and Z data. Do you want to do X, Y, and Z, right? So to answer your question, that does give that. It's going to take some time to curate that bot, but once you train that bot becomes more intelligent over time. So hopefully that did answer whoever asked that question, because that's really good question to ask.
This is a bit of a risky question. Conversational question, maybe, but I think ChatGPT is better. What do you think?
I think ChatGPT has its own swim lane, especially when it comes to developers. Essentially, I think that what Copilot does, it brings in more business efficiency, where Copilot and ChatGPT, they're running on in a game. Essentially, generative AI, there's so many different AI bots out there. However, what's different between that and Copilot, it's really specific to business continuity and efficiency, specifically for any organization.
Yeah, and let me just add a little bit on to that, just as a word of caution, because some people was like, "Oh, ChatGPT, it's free." You know what free means? Free means that you're giving up something for it to be free. So you have to be very careful with products that are free and you're feeding it business data, unless you're paying for Chat GPT, unless you're on the paid version where you read the thing where it says they're going to protect your data and all that stuff. If it's free, they could use your data for other stuff. So you want to make sure that you're being cautious about that.
Great answer, guys. So just next one is, I haven't used Microsoft Purview. Will I struggle with Copilot as a result?
No, it should help you. Yeah. Now, if you haven't used Purview and you're not necessarily understanding what type of controls you should have over your data, then you should probably enlist the help of somebody who can help you with that and make sure that you're setting those controls properly, that you're hitting all the controls that you need to hit, first of all, and that you're setting those controls properly within the system. But yeah, that's what I would say there.
Perfect. So the next question is, does Copilot activities are discoverable in Purview e-discovery?
So when you're with the Copilot security enablement, it does do essentially what's called essentially a baseline, but Purview does need to be inactive for that. And essentially it can be discoverable once you put in the parameters, as well as certain KPIs or thresholds of that security measure. Copilot security is almost like your semantic kind of like not help desk, but like your security center on autopilot. So it does kind of go out, and not only what's the benefit for having an E5 license is that instead of you going to prevention, you can go hunting, right? And Copilot can go hunting on your behalf, which is a whole another aspect of cybersecurity. But that's kind of one of the best, I would say, features within Copilot security that Microsoft has to offer. And I think it's another step on more in securing your environment as well.
Perfect. Yeah, so I'll just get to the next question. I find it all a bit confusing. Is it Microsoft 365 Copilot that works in Teams, SharePoint, etc.? Or is it Microsoft 365 Teams Copilot and then a Microsoft 365 SharePoint Copilot, for example?
So yes, I understand the same sentiment. Even as partners, we get kind of confused. So let me kind of clear the confusion. So the Microsoft Copilot, when you purchase the Copilot, correct? It is by individual instance. So that same Copilot kind of icon, once you have that license on it as it relates to application, the Copilot's going to work within that application. For example, the SharePoint Copilot for SharePoint, as long as you have that end user has that assigned license, essentially that Copilot's going to work for that application. That also includes with Microsoft Teams, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, etc. So I do know that Microsoft is going to expand on the generation of Copilot in the near future, but there is that free version that some folks get kind of confused about, right? And that free version is more for almost like, remember Clippy? Clippy kind of helped you out a little bit about word searches or kind of identifying little how-tos. So that free version, if you have Windows 11, if you select on it, you're going to get like, little prompts of things that are going to go outside within the internet, right? So having Copilot, when you select the license, the end user does have it to essentially wherever Copilot is attached to, that's where they can be able to leverage the Copilot itself. Hopefully,
Yeah,
I confuse you.
so I was just gonna add a little bit onto that. So there's like Copilot for M365, which is gonna cover your Office. Copilot for Teams. I think it actually doesn't say Copilot for Teams. I think it's Teams Premium, which is also another thing that's a little confusing. But if you use Teams Premium, then you get Copilot for Teams that record once you have to make sure the recordings are enabled for every meeting, but it will capture all the AI notes for that, all the action items for that. You have Copilot for Sales if you have Dynamics 365, which would, on top of those action items that Copilot for Teams would do, it would give you sales insights for your meetings as well. And then, the one for security and so forth and so on. So I know the one for Teams and M365 can be very confusing because of the way they're named. It's not Copilot for Teams, it's Teams Premium. Copilot for M365 makes you think the whole M365 when it's not. They're talking about Office. So yeah, it's a little confusing, but yeah.
Hopefully
Amazing,
that.
guys. Oh, sorry, Sheila.
I was gonna say, hopefully that answered your question. I know it is. Can we, us as partners, we do try to study as much new releases and naming culture as much as possible.
And just the next question, guys, there's how many files can be added attached to a single prompt?
Good question. I think it's for Power Automate depending, right? I don't think there's a limitation too much depending on what the prompt needs to go out to add a file. Can you kind of clarify your question? Is it in regards to SharePoint?
He said, can we reference an Excel file into Word, Copilot in Word? Does that answer the question?
So meaning basically if there's some kind of like a edit, right, of that data? That's a good question. I'm gonna pass it over to Nikkia. I haven't seen that use case as of yet.
Okay. Well, I mean, the short answer is yes. I'm not exactly sure exactly how many what that limitation is, but yes.
I would say
Also, I wanted to. Oh, sorry. Go
no,
ahead,
go ahead.
Sheila.
You first.
No, I was gonna double back to a question about buying all in one. Um, is there a way to buy all in one? I have not seen a way for you to buy all of the licenses all at one time in one like big old package. So if that was what the question was kind of the previous question, if that was what that question was kind of referring to, then yeah, you have some separations of some stuff.
Perfect. So just the next question there is, are there any security considerations developers should keep in mind when using Copilot?
Mhm. I would say from a security measure is just to go back to your industry and or assigned standard as the benchmark. I believe that benchmarks can be able to be improved over time as it relates to security. The standards are always changing all the time. To leverage the standard that's close to your industry would be my suggestion on implementing those recommendations within your tenant to making sure that you're compliant to those standards that are for your area.
My apologies. Can you repeat that last question? Because I kind of missed part of it.
So are there any, I'll just see. So are there any security considerations developers should keep in mind when using Copilot?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So remember we were going over the secure slide. There was a few different things you want to keep in mind. Not only so you have your access, people accessing the data. First of all, you have to have their identities. Yeah, they have roles and such like that. Then you want to attach the permissions for their access to their role, and hopefully have some groupings of folks so that you're not individually permissioning every little thing, because that can be a problem. Or individually permissioning every little thing, but having individuals permissioned on everything and individually permissioning every little thing is going to make security a nightmare. So you want to make sure your access control is a clear and simple structure, as simple as you can make it, but as complicated as you need it. But try to stay as simple as you can make it for the ease of use. But then you also have the security measures when it comes to making sure that Office 365 or M365 itself is secure. So, all those steps that we were talking about on the security slide, you want to make sure that you're not only implementing those things, Defender, also your compliance, because that's also kind of part of security. Not exactly, but some ways it does help with security, like making sure social security numbers or credit card numbers, if they're in your system, don't leave the system or go out to anyone else. But also making sure that you're keeping an eye on the ball, and that you're revisiting, and that you're looking at your insights and making sure that there aren't things slipping through the cracks that you might not necessarily realize are happening. Like in some cases, people may start giving access to certain things if depending on the way your system structure is, and that may be fine. You may have it where you can send out links to anyone, as long as they have the link. But you're probably going to want to put some security parameters around that, like turning the link off after a certain amount of time, making sure that the link, is probably I would usually I don't use the anyone link unless it's like true public, this is the information my company wants to get out to other people. So I don't care if somebody else gets the link. But if it's something that I care about, then sending a secure link directly to a person. So there are things that you can do as a security admin that we discussed, but then there's also making sure that your people are trained on security, they understand, phishing attempts, they understand, there's so many bits and pieces that you have to put in. There's the training aspect as well as the configuration. So that might be a bit more of a robust answer that you're looking for. Make sure that you're doing all those things that we talked about in secure phase. Make sure that you're putting those controls in, and make sure that your people are aware of how security threats are happening in today's world and how they can avoid them.
Lovely. So it looks like we have 2 questions left. That's all right. So does Copilot scenarios in Outlook are available on a user's archive mailbox?
Yeah, that's one I can't answer. I think I just got stumped. Sheila.
Now I'm just kind of thinking about the scenario
Think
when it
about-
comes to archiving, right? And kind of like that entire aspect on the cloud. So sorry, that's going to be one I cannot give an answer to.
Yeah, we'll
Perfect.
have to, if there's a way to get to us later for for you to contact us, can get you that answer. But yes, at the moment,
So just the last question there, guys. Can Copilot be used offline or in restricted network environments?
Good question, especially when you have like a DMZ kind of like tenant, right? Definitely going to leverage the internet to get what you need, right? It's going out into the cloud, so having access to the internet is important. However, I'll have Nikkia chime on a little bit more about if you need to have my understanding, you need to have it so it can prompt and give you. It goes back to the cloud mothership, right? And to give that responses. But if it's
Yeah, I
I,
believe it does too.
yeah, because even if you're offline and you wanted to, let's say, for example, you're on the plane and you want to create your presentation, it's still going to go out to out online just to kind of compute itself in order to give you the best results. So logically, to answer your question, it does require for you to be online.
Mhm. And if that answer is, I mean, that question is kind of, if you're on GCC or GCC high, yeah, you gotta wait. You gotta wait.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
good questions.
Perfect. Yeah,
Thank you.
so I think that's the end of it, guys. So on behalf of the ESPC community, we'd like to extend a big thank you to you again, Nikkia and Sheila,
Thank
for
you.
taking the time today to carry out this webinar. We really appreciate it. So that's the end of
Thank you.
today's webinar. You can find this webinar and more at sharepointeurope.com/resource center. Thanks again to all of you for joining us today, and I hope you'll join us again soon. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.